Hi there, my name is Belinda Dubston and welcome to the I Ching Cafe weekly overview. Now, last week when we asked the I Ching what is the flow of change we need to pay attention to, we got 51 shock. Oh my goodness, shock. So many of you have sent me messages, conversations I've had about last week and a little bit into this week, the shock processes that the I Ching highlighted for us. I had someone in a big relationship breakup, another person almost, next door to someone who was hijacked next to them at a fueling station. Someone's engine kind of blew up, or sort of, I know it's dramatic, and another friend received a court order. So much of the shock energy from last week carrying over into the next as well. So remember, the I Ching said, do not drop the egg, do not lose focus on what's really important, and recognize there's some demons and ghosts of the past we're dealing with. We're getting out of the bog and we're learning how to deal with forces that shake up our world and get us to move in a new direction. Well, this week we have a hexagram we haven't had before on this channel. So for this week, commencing the 25th of November 2019, we start the week with hexagram 64, which is called Before Completion. Now, you know that in the hexagram set, there are 64 hexagrams. And 63 and 64 form a pair of endings. 63, what happens when there's an ending just after the ending. And 64, which we have for this week, which is just before the ending is taking place. And so we start the 64 hexagrams with 1 and 2, which are also startups, and we finish the 64 hexagrams with 63 and 64, which are finishings. And lo and behold, we start the cycle all over again. So this week, our attention is on something that we're finishing, a big cycle that is coming to an end. How wonderful. And the I Ching talks about the story of a young fox who comes across a frozen lake, wants to get to the other side, and doesn't think to test the ice and be cautious and follow the thicker ice across the lake or the river, just goes and runs across the river because on the other side is the den or the food source or whatever that the young fox is after. And what happens is the fox goes fast, takes a risk, falls into the ice and is humiliated. His tail gets wet. So this hexagram is all about how important it is to pay attention to the last push until we reach the end of something. And likewise in mountaineering, you have the same idea that it's the last few steps up Everest that are treacherous, the most treacherous of all, because that's the part where we can see the top and we go, oh yay, we're so close, and we can stop paying attention to all the details of the processes around us. So this is all about really giving attention to the processes that are ending, the cycle that's coming to a close. Now we have just one changing line for this week. Oh, thank goodness, after a few weeks of 3 and 4 changing lines, a little bit of breathing space and not so much dramatic change. And this changing line is in the 6th position, all right? And you've heard me talk about before that change flows through an hexagram through the bottom line as it comes in, goes up, and the last line is something that's leaving. So because we have the change point, the focus of change, the locus of change, sitting in the 6th line at the top, it's a process that's ending or leaving. So what's really wonderful is not only do we have an ending process this week, closure, which might in some cases, if we're attached to things, be difficult to deal with, but we're coming to the end of a cycle. And changing line 6 says, yes! Victory! We've achieved a beautiful culmination of the last 64 hexagrams. The big cycle is done. We have closed it off. The last changing line of the last hexagram is changing into its opposite, and lo and behold, we have a new state of change. And so this changing line says, celebrate with your ancestors, with your higher self, with the world around you, because a victory has been achieved this week. Something remarkable has completed. A huge cycle has closed off, and we are ready for the next cycle to begin. How wonderful is that? The I Ching also says don't go too far into celebrations, because alcohol is mentioned with this changing line as well, to douse alcohol all over you and just be in this kind of celebration mode. And yes, literally go and read it up. And so the other part of this is also don't overdo it, because you might have that terrible hangover the next day, which stops and slows down your growth, your team's growth, your business's growth. So whether it's a personal achievement or a cycle or an ending, whether it's a business cycle, that's something that has been worked on for many, many years, that is finally reaching the end of its one phase and is ready for the next. The work that you and your team have put into this process is being victoriously celebrated with you. So go and celebrate the massive achievement. Just do it. Not too much though. And then our changing line then evolves 64 into the hexagram 40, Deliverance, which we have had before. And Deliverance, you can go and have a look, backtrack through previous hexagrams. Talks about this idea of having gone through a tough experience, having really been pushed through the dark night of the soul, as it were, the storm at sea. And what has happened is we have now shipwrecked on the shore. We've woken up as the waves are lapping our feet. We're laying prostrate on the beach, and we've arrived at a safe harbor after a tough time. So this week we are going to see in one area of our life, in one area of our business, perhaps our whole business, the culmination and the ending of a big cycle, coupled with the arrival in a safe harbor, and finally being able to take some rest, take some time out, and just take in the process. Hopefully that's not because the party was too hardcore, right? So this week our attention is completing things well, celebrating the victory, recognizing just what has been achieved, this moment of completion, and then celebrating the idea that safe harbor is here. We can just relax, recuperate in this kind of incubation space of having gone through a tough time. It has turned. We have reached a place where we can now start to recover. So I really wish for you and your businesses, if you've been having some difficulties in your business, things are changing. Things are coming right. And it's because you've applied the ideas of change, because you've worked hard, because you've paid attention to what you're being drawn to pay attention to, not what your ego is telling you, but what you're being called to do, what your business is asking of you, what your team is asking of you, what life is demanding of you, what you are being called to do, your higher purpose in whatever way, shape, or form that may take place for you. Right, what a wonderful week, right? So go and enjoy it, celebrate, take it all in, soak it all in, and let us know how your week has ended and how the cycle has ended, the culmination for you of a long series of work in place. Well, it won't be long and it'll be December, so keep your eyes open for the overview for December, and I'll see you then. And of course, see you online for our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter stories daily, and of course, whenever there's updates or resources on the I Ching on Change to guide and inspire you. And of course, it is Black Friday this week, whatever part of the world you may be in. So go and have a look at the links to some of the audio-based consultations that I do using the I Ching for business or personal, whatever it is that you're interested in. And have a look. We have got a 40% off special running from this Friday, the 29th, to the following Monday. So 4 days only. If you'd like to get a very personalized interpretation for the questions and the things that are troubling you at this time, go and have a look at that special for you. Well, we'll see you online and perhaps see you through one of our audio consultations. And in the meantime, be the change. Enjoy the reward of the hard work you've put in. The cycle is coming to an end. Just pay attention to these last few steps and then celebrate. Thank you so much.